be nice to have a break for a few days where we start the second portion, but
yeah. Well, remember to save all your work. Don't throw any of it away.
okay, yeah, I have it all stored away in a file like on my desktop.
Yeah, because you'll be using some of that material for
Okay.
the next course.
Okay, perfect. I just had a quick question. For the signature assignment, it says we need to have 8 articles. Can those include the ones we've used for the discussion boards?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So technically we only need 4 more, I guess. We've already, I think, done 4 for the discussion boards. So
Yeah, we're trying to keep that workload down. It's a lot of work, what you guys are already doing.
It's just a lot of little things you need to, make sure you check the boxes on all the little tiny, like detailed things. But I honestly don't feel like, 10 pages of like actual content is too much. I think just overall, I think, when we're turning in something and it's going to be like 20 pages with everything, the appendices and whatnot. I think as a whole, it looks like it's just a monstrous paper, but just little by little, I guess.
Not. Research papers, if you've been looking at the content of the papers that you've been researching, you'll find that most of them are quite substantial.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So many research articles will end up being anywhere from 40 to 60 pages or more.
Yeah, dude,
it's a lot of little things that you pull together.
Yeah.
So if you compare it to, say, like a puzzle, you have a box with say 500 pieces in it. Well, when you dump the pieces out on the table, it looks intimidating, but then when you start putting everything all together, then you come up with a nice picture out of it.
Yeah, little by little, it comes along pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think with and Eric, I was just finishing up my last article analysis for all 8, and it's already at 34 pages just with the article analysis without even starting. So with another minimum 10 pages, it's going to be up there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it doesn't take long to get there, and you're doing it piece by piece. And when you put all the pieces together, you say, wow, that's a big project. But when you decide to do your own research in your own classroom to try to prove or disprove something, then you'll find that you're going to have literally hundreds and hundreds of pages of information. And then you have to go through that and start whittling it down and just including the parts that you need for your final paper. Okay. All right. Okay, so this meeting is being recorded, and I will put the meeting into the virtual office. So if anybody needs to go back and look at it, they'll be able to do that. And let's see here. Let me go ahead and prime this up here. All right, so hopefully you'll see on your screen where it says signature assignment. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. We can see.
All right, good. So you don't have to be muted if you don't want to, because I'll be paying more attention to the page here than looking at you guys. It's not that I don't like looking at you, it's just that I can't see both at the same time. And then let's see, let me do one more thing here. All right, we should be okay. All right, so the signature assignment, if you take a look there, what do you see at the very top where it says under signature assignment?
Attach files.
Yes. So these are, I had to do a lot of digging to get these. They're, one is a sample of the literature review, and the other one is a sample of the appendices. So they're not from the same paper. So you're not going to see much matching in there. This is from a previous class that I did not teach, but these are articles that have been uploaded. And so we can use them as examples, samples. I'll let you know right from the beginning that they're not perfect samples. So some of them have some minor errors in there, some spelling errors, some formatting errors. So I have these articles here in here just to kind of give you an idea of how the articles go. So you may want to print those and save them. Okay, let's see. Yeah, they're in the course. They're in your week 8. Okay, so everybody has those. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay, good. And it's okay just to go ahead and unmute yourself so that you can ask questions as we go. So these samples were not here earlier in the course. Like I say, I had to dig these up and attach them here so that everybody has a fair chance of looking at them. Now there's some very explicit instructions. For example, the literature review, okay, I put a note in here, note that all references to APA are for edition 7. So if you see a reference to edition 6, it's a typo that got missed. And I know there's 1 or 2 in there. I went back through over and over again trying to find them. I can't find them. That's probably because I'm looking too hard. So just keep that in mind. All the references are for APA 7. So you'll see that for your running head, it's different than in edition 6. So you'll want to take a look at that. Also, make sure that your abstracts are correct and that you always have your keywords. Okay, so let's see here. So you've got the literature synthesis, which means that you're putting this in your own words. So there really should not be much direct quoting, because all of this should be in your own words. Okay, so your ability to put things in your own words are just as good as the authors of the articles that you're reading. So don't put yourselves down. Okay, you guys can express these things in your own words. Okay, if you feel that there's no other way of expressing something, then you can quote a little bit, but not much. Okay, because this is supposed to be your work and not somebody else's. You'll see in your articles that some of the researchers quote just a tiny bit, some quote a lot. The ones who quote only a little bit, their work is much better because all of the work flows through a single thought process. So if you're relying on somebody else's quote, then you're not going to have that smoothness in your paper. So try as much as you possibly can to keep from using those direct quotes. Okay, so there's two parts to the assignment. So one part is to prepare the 8 template analysis based on your chosen relevant sources. Okay, so these are the article analysis that will be in your appendices.
Professor, quick question.
Yes.
I can use the articles that I shared in discussions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and since I'm not changing my question, I can use those, correct? I don't have
Yes.
to. Okay.
Yes, just as long as they were not one of the required readings in the course, because there were some readings that were required, so you're not allowed to use those.
Okay.
Okay, the ones that you use should be the ones that you got on your own or with help from the library.
So we've done a total of 6, correct, with you?
Yeah, but when we're finished, it'll be a total of 8.
Okay.
And then in your next course, you're going to have to find 4 more.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. And with that, I can literally just, I can just get what I had, just reformat it into a sheet, and then just type in the appendix 1 through 8, and then you use that as my reference for the second part of the assignment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and we're not trying to load a lot of extra stuff on you guys. That's not the purpose. So in research, when you do research that you want to submit to a journal, then you're going to review many articles. It'll be a lot more than just 8 or a lot more than 12. Usually it'll be about 40 or 50 that you will review. You'll make your notes on those articles. You'll answer those questions. They're almost identical to the questions in this course. And then you will save all of that documentation so that when you're doing your thesis, or not your thesis, should not be a thesis. When you're doing your research articles, then those are the ones that you pull from. Okay. So you're not doing everything all over again. So that's why in situations like this, you'll have a file with the name of your research on it, and you'll keep that file on your computer, and you should also have a backup of it somewhere in case something happens to the computer and you lose all your files. Okay, so always have a backup, have a thumb drive of some sort, and back all of those things up. Yes, Allison. All of the articles that you've used previously, then just make sure you have a total of 8. So we're going to go over what those requirements are in just a minute. Okay, so all right, so we'll go down here, the 8 templates. Okay, you have 8 sources that you're going to summarize. They all must pertain to your research question. Okay, so don't just go out there and get a bunch of articles and throw them together and say that this is my paper. They have to relate somehow to your research question. Okay, and then the second part, of course, you'll have your appendixes, and they'll be 1 through 8. All right, so the 8 sources have to be of your own finding and choosing, so they will not include the required or optional articles in this course. I've already mentioned that. You can use the information from the articles recommended required or optional for the course, but they do not count as any of the 8 required for the synthesis.
Got it.
Okay. So if you use 3 of the required articles, that's fine. You're going to come up with an additional 8 that are original to your research.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, 7 of those 8 have to be published studies. Okay. They have to be.
What does that mean, Professor? By published studies?
Yeah, they have to appear in some kind of a official journal.
Oh, so like the ones we've already used. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So then you have A, B, and C. A says they have to be peer reviewed, published in a journal, hence no dissertations, no blogs, no newspaper articles. Okay. And that includes advertising. Believe it or not, some articles look like they're interesting articles, but they're nothing more than advertising. All they do is tell you about a certain product and what it's supposed to do. And that's what the whole paper is about. And so they publish that as research. It's not research. Okay. All right. B, pertaining to special education field. Okay. And C, it has to be primary research, which is collecting and analyzing data from participants. Therefore, no literature reviews or meta-analysis or articles. Okay, a meta-analysis is what you are doing in this paper. When you're finished writing this paper, it will be a meta-analysis of 8 sources of research. Okay, so these articles that you've been reading that are nothing about, are they're only about researching data from, say, 40 or 50 schools, or they got a panel of 40 or 50 teachers together and they shared data, things of that nature, or somebody sat down and they started going through research articles and they said, okay, I like this one. They set it aside. They go through, oh, I like this one. They put to the side and they go through and they get any number of studies. And then they go through those studies and look for bits of data. And then they'll make their charts and they'll compile the data from all the research articles. See, that is a meta-analysis. So that is not, that's not research in the way that we're doing it in this article. Some of that information is important, but the parameters have already been set in those studies. The meta-analysis is not looking at what needs to be done to replicate that particular study. So when you're doing your study, you want to be able to tell somebody else how to come to, how to research using your parameters so that you'll be able to either verify that your research question worked or verify that it didn't work. Okay, so those things are missing in a meta-analysis.
Professor, quick question.
Yes.
On the articles again, I apologize. So if we're using the 6 that we've already done in class with you, I'm sorry, the 5 we're done in class with you, those have already been approved, correct? Since
yeah, unless some I've told that they needed to select a different article.
Yeah, but as long as you approved it, gave it a 5, and whatever, we can use it.
If I've approved them, then I haven't made any comment to you.
All right, thank you so much.
Only the ones that I didn't approve of, then I asked for those to be replaced.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so of course, blogs are self-explanatory. It's in a blog or a newspaper article. They're not discussing what went on in that particular study. It's just a report. So that's not going to apply. Okay, B, it has to pertain to the special education field. Okay, and that might be a little bit challenging because sometimes it's not that easy to figure out if it's special education or not. There are many, many articles out there that just deal with research in general. Okay, and then primary research, that's basically research that the author of the article performed himself or herself, along with whatever group of researchers that the individual is working with. So if you have, say, one author, he or she is working with 4 or 5 other researchers, and they're working on the same project, then that's still primary research. But primary research is not looking at other literature reviews and reporting on those reviews. Okay, that's not primary, that's secondary. Okay, when somebody reads your paper, they are going to be reading secondary research. Okay, you're doing primary research, your report will be secondary research. Okay. All right, so you're looking at the type of methods, and some of that was discussed in week number 3. So out of the articles that you produce, at least one has to be a single subject research design. At least one has to be experimental or quasi-experimental design or correlation regression. At least one has to be a case study or an action research. As long as you have one of each of those, then you can do others that are the same ilk, so to speak. So you might have, say, 2 single subject, 3 experimental, 2 case studies, whatever it takes to make those 8 articles. Okay, but you have to have at least one of each of those 3. Then the last one can be a literature review. So you noted that talked about the first 7. Okay, those have to be primary. Okay, the last one, number 8, can be a secondary resource. So you can use a review for that. Okay, so is that part clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
and we can use our Cornell notes. I was told that we can use the Cornell notes that we did in week 2 for one of the
Yes.
things. We did it on a research study, primary research study.
Right.
Okay.
Make sure that you cover all of the details that are required for the article, okay?
Yes. Okay.
And you can use your Cornell notes for that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So getting into the actual paper itself, the paper needs a running head. Now, usually in papers that are relatively small, like what we're doing here, less than 60 or 70 pages, usually you do not need a running head. However, because of the nature of this course that we're taking, it's to prepare you to do research in the future. So you do need a running head. So in the edition number 7 for APA, the running head is different than it was in the previous versions. In version 7, you're not going to include the words running head. Okay, that's the only difference. So if you take a look in your publication manual, let's see where is that on. Let me go. The index. There we go. Running head. All right, so that should be section 2.3 and 2.8, 2.18. if you want to write that down so you can look it up. Depending on the format of the book that you have, I've got the spiral bound one. So that's where they are. The page numbers might be a little bit different. So that's why I just told you what the section numbers are. All right. And then your abstract, okay, needs to be 120 to 250 words. And you need 3 to 5 keywords. Okay, keywords are words that you are using in your paper. They're not just words that you pick out of the air. So make sure that these are words that are in your paper. And the reason for that is that when you put an article into a journal, there'll be certain keywords that are searchable. So if somebody is looking for a particular word, they want a paper that has a particular word in it, then they will search that keyword, and then the search engine will look through thousands of articles and pull up articles that have those keywords. That's the purpose of the keywords. So make sure that those keywords are words that are in your paper itself. Okay. The abstract is never indented. Please remember that. That's the only part of the paper that does not get indented. Okay? And it should be double spaced. Okay. Any questions about that so far?
Nope.
Okay, I can't hear you.
I just said no, no questions,
Oh,
at least for me.
okay. I heard somebody start to say something, but then I didn't hear him anymore. Okay, not a problem. Okay, so where should the abstract appear in your paper?
Right after the title page.
Yes. So right after you finished writing your title page, under that the last word that you write on the title page, then use your control key, hold that down, and tap the enter key once. That will give you a page break, and it'll automatically put you to a brand new page. And then you can type abstract, put that in the middle of the paper, and then you're going to left align your text and go ahead and write your abstract. Okay. When you're finished with the abstract, then you get into the body of the paper. So how do you go from the abstract to the body of the paper?
You start on a new page.
Yeah, start on a new page. How do you get there? What's the easiest way to get there?
Just hit enter to go scroll down to the next page, or you can do the page break.
Yeah, I would do the page break.
Yeah,
because there's fewer keystrokes. Not only that, but if you have to go back and add anything to your abstract, if you're just using the enter key many times, it's going to throw off the format of the entire paper. Okay, so when you use the page break, then that just means that if you add something to that page, it will not move the rest of your document. The rest of the document stays where it is. Okay, so that's why I suggest using the page break. In fact, on the page here, it says start at the top of the page, insert tab, pages, page break. So that's the easy way to do it. Okay. So then you're going to have your introduction. It's up to you if you want to write the word introduction. It's okay if you do not. So I'll leave that up to you. Okay, and any acronyms or special definitions that you're going to be discussing in your paper, then that's where you can put them. You can put them right in the introduction. Okay, all right, so it says here, for the introduction, you're going to introduce your topic, and it's going to be kind of like a roadmap. that will help you out. And then anytime you have an acronym in the body of the paper, even if you make a list of them here in the introduction, the first time you use it in the paper, please take the word that is going to be replaced by the acronym, and then right next to it, put in parentheses what that acronym is, and then close the parentheses. That way, from that point on, you don't need to do that again. But some words, especially acronyms of any kind, we may think that we know what that acronym is, but your reader might not. There are many acronyms that can have more than one meaning. Just think of the acronym FBI. I can bring up to mind about 6 or 7 different meanings for that acronym. So just make sure that you identify it. Okay, you need to state the purpose. You're going to state what you're discussing, who your audience is, who are you writing for? You're not writing for the students. Okay, the students have no idea what you're doing. So you're writing for a certain audience. Maybe it's other teachers. Maybe it's special ed teachers. Maybe it's administration. So let us know what that is. Okay, the rationale for the paper and why did you choose the topic might be your own experience. Okay, many people, for example, get into special education simply because they have relatives who have special needs. In fact, most of the laws that are there relating to special education and different laws that make the school systems at least try to come up with certain programs, they're because lawmakers have relatives who have special needs and they want those special needs taken care of. Okay, the introduction, don't make that 3 or 4 pages. Usually one very well written paragraph will work for that. Okay, research question. State what your research question is in question form. Then following that, you need to talk about it a little bit. Why is your question important? And what are you going to do to find an answer to that question? You're not just simply going to ask a question and then let somebody else answer it. That's the question is what you're going to try to answer. Okay. And then you'll have your headings and put your headings as what you're researching. What is it? What's the point that you're trying to make? Okay, so in your first part, you need to cover these. I think there's 8 points there. So you need to cover those. Okay, when you're doing it, actually this is a little confusing. For this part here, this refers to what you're going to write about for each of your articles. So you're going to have each of these items on that page that you're talking about your article.
So Professor?
Yes.
For that one, for this was where I had like a couple questions. So for like heading 1, you could say like study summaries and then list all of these things for each one of your 8 articles.
Yeah, let me go over this a little bit because
Okay.
I noticed that when I was reading this, that it looked a little bit confusing. Okay, these 8 questions here are going to be special questions you're going to answer for each of your articles. Okay, and each of those articles is going to have its own appendix. So therefore, you're going to have appendix 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 8. Okay, so that's where this information is going to go. So just make a note of that. So here under heading 2, then what you're going to do in the paper where you're putting all of these articles together, this is where you're going to take different headings. You're going to have to decide which articles will apply to a certain heading. So you might have 5 or 6 or 7 headings. And in there, you're going to have at least 2 or 3 of your research articles applying to those headings. And you'll see that in the examples, in those 2 examples that are at the beginning of week 8 for that project. Once you see that, it'll become a little bit more clear. Okay. I wasn't asked for any of my input into writing up the directions for this assignment. I think I would have done it a little bit differently so that it wouldn't be so confusing. Okay. And then you have your discussion. Conclusions, you're only going to have one conclusion. So I'm not sure why it says plural here. Maybe it's referring to each article by itself. I'll have to try to get that figured out somehow. Okay, in your first paper where you're going to group articles together, you're going to have your references. You have to have that. Okay, then any appendixes that you have, if there are any charts or anything that you're going to include in your paper, then you'll put those as appendixes. And I would take appendixes for anything that does not refer to the actual articles, since those are labeled appendix 1, 2, 3, etc. I would say appendix A for a certain chart, appendix B for a certain chart. So yeah, you might, in your research question, you might be saying, okay, I'm going to have some questionnaires that I hand out to the participants in the study. And these are the questions that I'm going to ask. Or I'm going to get permission from the administration and from parents and caregivers, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to include what those letters are. If you have any of those things, then you'll use them as appendixes, but use letters instead of numbers. Okay, that way it keeps all of this sorted out. Okay, so then you're going to upload everything together in your Dropbox. I would just put it together as one document. Some prefer to do it with, you'll have one for your literature review and another for the appendixes. To me, it doesn't make sense that way because now you're breaking up your project. So for me, it's better if you just make it one document. So you get to go through your paper, do your references, add your appendixes, and then after you proofread it a couple times, check it out clearly, then you're ready to drop it in the box. Okay, so you have to have your title page and your abstract, your text, references, and one page with the title Appendices. You leave blank as a reminder of what usually go there. So you can leave that there until you're finished with your paper. If you have other appendixes or appendices other than your research articles, then you can add them right there. And like I say, just label them as A, B, C, etc. It's not a requirement that you have extra appendices, but it certainly looks nice in the paper.
If you didn't want fucking kids with me, you fucking ruined every fucking magical moment for me. How the fuck am I supposed to fucking feel? I did that.
Okay, I heard something there. I didn't know if that was a question or not. Okay. All right, so style needs to be well organized, demonstrates logical sequencing and structure, uses standard English, uses APA style 7th edition. Now, the only exception there is the single spacing of the appendices. Now, if you're doing a chart, and it has writing in the chart, then of course that's not going to be double spaced. You won't be able to maintain the format. So it says here to go ahead and use single spaces for all the appendices. So we'll go ahead and leave it at that.
Fuck you for kicking me out of the house with your fucking sister.
Okay, somebody has a TV on in the background there. Maybe you can turn the sound down.
Fuck you, that's how I feel. But look at me right now. Because you're like something else.
Okay, cite correctly. You do not use longer quotes than 2 lines for such a short paper. And I feel that even 2 lines might be too much. Do not use more than 2 or 3 quotes through the entire paper. Okay, be aware that your papers automatically go through plagiarism software. You'll get a report on how much of that paper relates to other papers. So if it looks like it's an exceptional amount that's copied, then I'll be asking you questions about that. Okay, all the files have to be uploaded pretty much at the same time. And manuscript will follow APA public. There it is, 6th edition. I kept looking and looking for that. It should be 7th edition. Okay, we stopped using the 6th edition in December of last year. Okay. All right, so you'll have more information in your textbook for the class. So don't be afraid to refer back to that. All right, then work with the articles, keep track of articles that may be useful for a future capstone project, even if you don't use them for this class or the next one. Okay, just go ahead and put those in a file so that you can go back to them in the future if you want to write a paper and get it submitted. Getting a journal review, it goes very well for your career. Some school districts, if you're published, they'll actually give you extra stipends for it. So just ask your school district and see what their viewpoint is on that. Some of them do, some of them don't. All right, so here's the rubric. So everything is clear there. Okay, and that's that. So any questions so far?
Okay. Why can that be me? Why is that the disrespectful? Why can that be me?
I have a quick question still on the heading part.
Okay.
So, so do we, I'm still unsure of that, like heading part 1 where it said do we write like a little summary including all of those pieces of information for each one of our articles, like in one of the headings, and like heading 1? I mean, obviously we're not listing them, we're writing it out like paragraph style or whatever. Would that be like under heading 1, and we would not label it heading 1, we'd label it something like study summaries, right?
Yeah, very similar to that. This is probably a good time to actually go into the sample papers. So
Okay.
let me stop sharing this right now, and let me pull up. Okay, let's see if this will work.
We are fucked up because you're a fucked up person, and my love cannot fucking demolish you.
Okay, let us. Okay, so do you see appendix 1 at the top of this one?
Yes.
All right. So this is getting into the actual paper itself. And if you take a look at that, that little sheet there, it's on page 15. And it says each study summary of all 8 should include the following. Okay. So this will be appendix 1. So this is one of the articles. So it says it's a single subject design. and then you have your research question. So if you take a look at page 15, you look in there, you'll see that there are questions to answer. So please don't put your question in there, just answer it. Okay, if you want to use that as a template, go ahead. But after you've answered a question, then get rid of the question. Just leave the answer. Okay, hopefully that helps you so you don't have to try to memorize this. Okay, APA citation of the article. So there's your APA citation of the article. Then you have some questions. Okay, the purpose of the study. It directly discusses and evaluates. And so it'll go through here. Just go ahead and answer the questions. Okay. So you go through here and then you'll come to that part where it says summary. All right. So the summary, you need to have pretty close to a page for each of the summaries. Let's see here. I just had it a minute ago, but it'll tell you that there's a certain number of words that are supposed to be in there. So I don't necessarily count each word, but if it looks like it's not enough, then I will copy it and I will go up here. I'll show you. This is an easy way for you to count. So I'll go here to review up at the top ribbon. And then you see over here where it says word count right here. Okay, so let me show you how that would work. So to me, it looks like there's not enough there. All right, so I'll highlight this right here, and then I'll go over here to word count, and it tells me there's 152 words. Okay, it's supposed to be about 175 minimum. So then whoever's grading this would make a comment, it's too short. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you're going to get a lot of points taken off of it. But if we go through the paper and find that many of these are too short, then you might lose a few points. Okay, so here's appendix number 2. And you go through and answer the questions. And then you get to the summary. And you can see you don't even have to count the words there. It should be close to a page, and it's not. So here's another one that's too short. Okay, then we'll go through here. Here's another one. Okay, and the notes on the grading, it says it's a good summary. So that was very appropriate. Then appendix 4. So you can see pretty much how this is going. And then sometimes if there are mistakes in some of the variables, then we'll leave some comments. So this one, the summary is too short. So that's 3 out of 4. Okay, another good summary. So here we go. Okay, what was the intervention? Okay, they said this was a correlation between sound blending and reading achievement. Well, the intervention has to do something to change this. So what is that intervention? So we don't know from this report. And then the author here put good readers have strong sound blending skills. Well, that's a nice statement, certainly a goal, but what we want to know is what actually changed. See, so that would be your dependent variable. So just make sure that you use a little bit of thought in here. You spent time looking for those things, so let's report them on the right way. All right, and then here's another one. It says describe the participants, and it says no direct participants. Ooh, was there a study? You have to have participants in order to have a study. Okay, okay. So then there was not a study. Is this a dissertation or essay? If so, it did not qualify for this assignment. Okay, and then look at the summary. That's way too short. That doesn't look anywhere close to a page. Okay, and then we have another appendix. All right, so here it talks about the independent variable, and it says that it was 2 instructional sequences that were used. Well, an intervention should be clearly stated. What were the sequences? See, the word sequence indicates some order, but what order? Order of what? See, so the questions need to be answered. And then here for the dependent variable, okay, what were the noted changes? What was measured? See, so this is nice, but doesn't give us any information. Okay, and summary is okay. So you have access to this. Okay, grading note, summary is too short. And then you have your references. Okay, and then you would finish that up with your appendixes. Okay. All right, so any questions about that so far?
No, and you want the appendices like all together with the other part, not separate, correct?
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. If you put it in 2 parts, I'm not going to take any points away. It's just that it makes it easier for me to read. That way I can go back and forth and look at the resources and make sure that everything lines up.
So when we're submitting it, we would submit the 1 long assignment plus all 8 separate PDF articles, correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
you'll have the major paper, and then you need to upload the PDFs.
Okay.
Now the PDFs will be 1 each. Don't put them into one document. It's too hard for me to break those out and make them have any meaning.
Okay.
All right, so let's see here now. Let me go to the next one here. All right, so this one should have a running head on it. So hopefully you'll see this. All right, so there's a mistake here. Okay, so I won't take any points off of something like that. It's an innocent mistake. But you notice where the page number is. That's where it should be. All right, your title page needs to have certain information in it. For example, you have to have the student name, you have to have the program name, and then the instructor name, and I don't know if I accidentally typed that in there right now. I'll take it out. Month and year of the course. So for example, you're doing it for this course, then you would put January 2021. All right, there's your abstract. So it's proper. The only problem is that something's missing. Okay, you're missing, whoever wrote this was missing the keywords. Okay, and then here's your introduction. So they didn't put the word introduction for that part. That's okay. I leave that up to your preference. Okay, and then you have your research question. Now the research question is not complete because it doesn't give any details about your teaching strategy. So you'll remember from going back. It's back a little bit further back. Right here. All right, so on page 4, I'll refer you to the syllabus, page 4. This is the part of your syllabus that's labeled week by week. If you go to page 4, then it gives you information on your research question. So on page 4 and 5, I won't read it to you. So you guys are very qualified to do that reading. So that'll tell you what all is needed for that research question. So it should be more complete than just this little blurb here. You know, this is a fine research question, nothing wrong with it. We just need to add a few more details to it. Okay, now I forget who it was, maybe Allison, you were asking about the headings. You see here's one heading for technology. And when you look through this, you'll see that there's several articles that are relating to that. They're listed in here. Okay, visual aids is another heading. Constant time delay, teaching model, self-awareness. So kind of getting the idea of what those headings would be.
So they're just kind of separate based on what your own research question is. They can be different. Okay, individual,
Absolutely.
I guess I should say. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's kind of hard to state specifically what those headings are going to be, because each one of you is going to develop your research question a little bit differently. It's going to be different. So the headings are going to have to relate to what you're doing in your research. Okay. Then conclusion. Now, one thing that is very important about the conclusion is in a conclusion, you're wrapping up your paper. A conclusion should never include new information. If you have new information, then you have to build it into the body of your paper. Okay. So for example, in your next course, SPD 696, you're going to be putting some more articles. You're going to need to get at least 4 more articles. And they're going to have to be written within the past 10 years. If it's beyond 10 years, you can't use them. For this course, you can use them if they're older than 10 years, but not in 696. So that's going to require you to go back through your headings in here and add material. So you're basically going to be rewriting this. Your headings can be the same. However, if the information that you get is substantially different than what you had in this course 695, then your headings might change a little bit. Okay, and then your conclusion will change because of the new information. So you're not going to use this conclusion here and then just add the new information. No, the new information has to be in the paper before you get to conclusion. This is standard practice on any papers that you write, a thesis, a dissertation, anything like that. Conclusion should never, ever include new information. Okay, and then you have discussion there. So the student wanted to add a few more details, which is fine. Okay, and then you'll have the references. And so I believe there were 8 references here. And then when you get to the end of the paper, then you'll have your appendices. So here, if you have any charts or anything that you're including, then you'll start them here, change the word appendices to appendix A, B, C, whatever. When you're done with those appendices, then the next one will be appendix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. and those will be your articles. Okay. And then that will be your one paper that you'll submit, plus your the PDFs of the other articles. Now, I suggest that you do a lot of proofreading. Make sure that you don't have a lot of typos in there. Make sure that your formatting is good. And sometimes the formatting inside of paper can have some problems. If you're having any difficulties with formatting, please let me know. I'll let you know one thing right now. If you take a look at your ribbon, part of the ribbon up here will give you some styles. And if you just hover over a particular style, you'll see how it changes. It changes the paper. A little bit. Let's see here. See here, we don't have the headings don't go up that high. But if you come here, any of these, they can cause you some problems. Okay, intense, etc. So if you just go to the one that, see, it was right there just a moment ago. Okay, normal. If you use normal, that usually gets rid of most of your formatting issues. So up here, Microsoft thinks it knows best. It doesn't. APA is the style that we need to use for the paper. So we use normal, and then for view and help, all of these things up here, you take a look at them and see how they apply to your paper. Okay, any questions? Okay, so if you have any questions that are not answered in these samples, then you can come back to the video, review the video. If it's still not clear, please send me an email, ask specific questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you out with that.
I guess I'm so sorry. I hate to ask another question.
That's okay.
But so I just feel like I'm still not, I get that the headings, we have all of our different individual headings, but do we still have to have a section with the like summaries of each research article? Like that first one where it said like heading and then it said like APA citation and all of that information. I just want to know if we need to have one section or one heading with all of the study summaries, research study summaries.
Yeah, each article is going to have a summary. That's going to be
Okay.
point, number 5. So you see, this is the, are you able to see the second document that I put up? Do you see summary?
I see abstract.
Okay, let me stop sharing and I'll share it again.
Okay.
Okay, so do you see number 5 summary now?
Yeah, that's a part of our article analysis, right? But do we kind of replicate something like that in one of the sections? Because is this a heading? Like, I guess I'm just not clear if this is under one of the headings or if we take the summaries from our research articles and kind of replicate that in heading number 1 in our, like, the write-up.
Okay, well, in the there's part of the paper where you're going to be grouping some of these articles together.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't need to put the summaries in there.
Okay.
All right, so the summaries are to be attached to these each appendix. So each appendix represents one paper or one research article, I should say. Okay, so for example, here, Appendix 7, this is one research article.
Yeah.
And it's related to this article right here.
Yeah, I get that. I just didn't know if we had to do that because like in the sample or in the under the instructions that you were going over where it says heading 1 and then it says each study's summary should include the following. And so is
Yeah.
that supposed to be under a heading or is that only in our research or like our article analyses in the appendix?
Yeah, that's why I said that first one there was confusing. So the person that wrote up this syllabus, they didn't realize that they put instructions for the appendices in that number 1 heading.
Gotcha. Okay, that is clear to me now. I'm appreciative.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem. Yeah, when I saw that at first, I thought, what? What is this? So then I realized after reading through it several times, that they're referring to the articles themselves. Okay, so that's what happened there. And
Okay.
hopefully I'll be able to get that changed before the next time. The last time I taught this course, it was totally different. So I was ready with my notes from the last time that I taught the course, and lo and behold, everything was changed. So that's the only thing we can be sure of, right? Is
Well,
change.
Yep. That's kind of like the theme of the year is pivoting and being flexible.
Yeah, that's it. But we're educators. We can take it, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your explanations. I'm appreciative.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, very good. I'll go ahead and close down now. Thank you so much for coming on short notice. And hopefully everybody received the email. They'll be able to take a look at the recording as well. And now you know that you have 2 more resources that I was able to find and put in here. Even though they're not the best of examples, they're fairly decent. They kind of give you an idea of what's required. So good night, everybody. Thank your families for allowing you to give up a portion of your evening tonight to come to this meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Night.
Rest of your week. Night.
All right. Good night.